Do you remember what I said about face tattoos?
Health over wealth!
You tell us about your sign?
Yes. Government recognized terrorism, MLK, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Luigi, Mangione. And this just speaks to the fact that historically many...
It's so funny to me that MLK, oh my God.
Human rights leaders who have stood up against mistreatment.
Oh, wait, no, it makes sense. She's wearing a mask. Okay, yeah, no, okay, for sure.
Against apartheid have also been labeled as terrorists to sow doubt and fear.
Obviously, what Luigi did was an act of violence. Not going to touch on that as much, but he
has lifted us out of
That's fair for her to say that.
Dust in the trivialness of politics and legislation.
And I believe that this is being done to send a message.
Healthcare should not be for profit. That is the bare minimum.
I agree with her.
If you put profit anywhere near protecting human life, people will prioritize profit.
Of
you
course.
cannot have a for-profit system that prioritizes human life.
That's a good cosplay. I like that. That's really meta.
And profit. It is impossible.
I've had somebody on the floor fainting, on the verge of dying, who was literally saying, begging, please don't call an ambulance because my family...
You know what's crazy is my mom had the same exact thing, and she did the same exact thing to me. I remember it so well. God, it was upsetting.
Cannot afford it. Do you know what it is to have somebody in so much pain and only thinking my family cannot afford it? I'd like to ask the public in general, why is there a correlation with profit and denying people the right to healthcare in their most vulnerable moments?
As you may be aware, there are some current health insurance policies out, such as limiting the number of hours of anesthesia that will be covered by health insurance for patients. And recently, another health insurance company changed their policy on benefits for children with autism. At the end of the day, our message is not to comment on any healthcare policy alternatives, but to state insurance companies, business people, and people looking to make a profit should not be the ones in charge of which healthcare treatments or procedures people can receive.
I think she's right. I do. That should be between you and your doctor. Yeah, that's true. I think that the more that the focus is on Luigi and like whether what he did was good or not, I think that the less the probability is that any actual change would ever happen. Because like at the end of the day, like what the guy did is clearly indefensible. Like everybody knows this, right? And so, and this, by the way, there have been studies, and this actually is a super majority. Everybody thinks this is a bad situation. If you look at the entire population, look it up yourself. And so, I think the issue is like, but like what these people are actually saying, I think is something that many people agree with.
Overwhelmed!
What's up, guys? 2:28 p.m., December 21st, 2024. I'm here in Washington Square Park in New York City.
That's a
there
lot
appears
of
to be a
birds.
few things going on right now. There's a rap battle cipher happening. There's some kind of TikTok dance challenge. A Free the Hostages protest.
Okay.
And I'm at the Free Luigi rally. You guys probably know who Luigi is.
Yeah.
He's being held at MDC in Brooklyn right now.
Nigga in there for a body, but he doing the right thing. I said Luigi been the dawn since he put his Pampers on. Vagabonds ran out the mouth like a marathon. Spazzing out, he hopped in the whip, then he carried on with the shooters, got more ace in every arm. Free Luigi, gang, that ass. Free Luigi. I'll trade plays. I've been in jail for 5 years. He don't know what it's like yet.
He is suspected of a...
That was pretty good. I don't know why. Why is it that every time this guy interviews people, they start rapping?
Assassinating the CEO
rapping,
of United Healthcare,
man.
Brian Thompson.
Brian Thompson is dead after being shot in Midtown Manhattan. The shooting happened near the Midtown Hilton. Thompson was not staying in the hotel, but we've learned he was in New York.
We can't walk. You can't. Oh, never mind. It's fine.
For an investors conference.
Oh, yeah.
According to a manifesto that was leaked by investigative journalist Ken Klippenstein, who we interview later in this video, Luigi has a major problem with the health insurance industry, and possibly health insurance claim denials, which essentially means insurance companies refusing to cover the cost of medical treatment for insured patients, aka paying customers. For you pampered Europeans out there who don't know what freedom tastes like, let me explain something to you. In the United States, on top of sales and personal income tax, we also pay, on average, $550 a month to private companies for something called health insurance.
$550 is the average? Oh my God. That's insane. How much is it for you guys? That's crazy. That's like as much as, that's like half of a rent payment almost. Probably a third now, but like, holy shit.
Who in return give us a cool card that we take to the doctor when something goes wrong. At the hospital or at the front desk of an urgent care clinic, the doctor or receptionist, before telling you what's wrong or what the options are for treatment, will first ask you if you have the card or not. If you don't have the card, just getting into the door and being seen by a doctor is between 2 to 10 times more expensive. Then after you're in there, the
2 to 10 times more expensive. True and not true. So, there was a time that I went to urgent care, and I thought there was something wrong with me, and so they looked at me, and basically, they didn't even have me pay. I didn't even have to pay. I was seen by a doctor, and they checked on me and everything. They were like, because I think they assumed that I was like a crackhead or a bum, and I just randomly showed up, and I was having some sort of like crazy episode. And they're like, okay, yeah, just get out of here. You're fine. You're fine. Just go somewhere else. And that was it. Yeah. And they thought I was a crack. It's like last year. And so that happened. But one difference is that a lot of the companies that do this, and this is especially true, like the way that I know this is with dental insurance and paying for things with like your teeth, is that if you're paying for something in cash, there is a different rate that they go with. But it is substantially still way higher than if you had insurance paying for it, obviously, right? Is it 2 to 5 times or 2 to 10 times? Probably not, but it's more.
Foolery continues. After a doctor diagnoses you and makes a recommendation as to what they believe is the correct course of action, whether it be surgery, therapy, medication, or what have you, they have to file a claim with your insurance provider and ask them, the ones you're paying, if it's in budget for their company. This is called filing a health insurance claim. In some cases, companies will deny the claims, which forces doctors and physicians to present their patients with a depressing ultimatum. Either pay...
that's fucking insane. Like, for me, I remember, so I was able to get my insurance to pay for my Tempur-Pedic bed because apparently my, I went to a chiropractor and they said, well, we can tell them that, you need this. And so I got, $1,000 off or something like that. Or no, it was less than that. It was, $400 off of the bed for that reason. It's fucked up. Yeah, it's such a convoluted and confusing system. Like, for any video gamers that might not be Americans, the best way that I can explain the American healthcare system is think about Path of Exile crafting, but there are people who become millionaires by exploiting the different advantages. That's basically it. And I'm talking about Path of Exile 1 crafting.
Exorbitant uninsured rates for care, or if you can't afford it, get the hell out of here, you sick bastard, and come back with some money. And if you can't find some money, you could submit an appeal and begin that lengthy process, which on average...
Here's another component that I think that Andrew isn't going to cover, but I've been familiar with myself, is that a lot of... this happened to my dad. My dad had a bunch of different medication that he would take, like hydrocodone, and he actually even took morphine straight up. And he had been taking these now at the time for 5 or 10 or 15 years, right? And he had taken Valium for 50 years, and they started trying to take him off of it. And so my dad had to, he had to stop doing hydrocodone. I think it was cyclobenzaprine, morphine, and I'm pretty sure there was one other one on top of that. They cut him off of all of those in 30 or 90 days. And so, like, it's not just the fact that they can cut this off for this reason, but they can also cut it off for, like, different, like, drug scare reasons, too. Supposed to be weaned off? Yeah, that not in Texas.
Takes over 180 days, a window in which 47% of respondents said their health condition got worse. United Healthcare, of which...
Well, and it's also another reason is that anxiety and stress causes somebody, it's like having Sunder Armor, right? It's like having a debuff on you where like you take more damage. So it's like if you're stressed out and upset, things like this are going to negatively affect your health more. Stress is a killer? Yeah, it is. It actually is a killer. Like I remember I went to the doctor and I had a blood pressure reading of, this is my high score so far, 194. That's not a good number, by the way. And so why is that? It was just stress. Just stress and worry. How'd you not die? Easy. Just didn't do it. Yeah, I just didn't do it. I just didn't die. And so anyway, and after that, I realized, like, you need to, I'm like, bro, you need to chill the fuck, like, to myself, right? I'm like, you need to chill the fuck out. Like, just stop. Stop getting upset. Stop getting worried. You're literally killing yourself. And it was a lot. Almost 200. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, just do it. Yeah, and after that, I like changed a number of things, got it down to like, it's like 100 and I think 25 last time I checked. Maybe 100 and I figure it was 135 or 125, right? It's one or the other.
Brian Thompson was the CEO, has the highest claim denial rate of any other major health insurance company. Part of this has to do with the fact that during COVID, the company began using AI to assess and deny claims.
Data is at the core of our agenda to improve healthcare, which directly influences how we develop innovative consumer solutions.
According to a class action lawsuit filed in Minnesota by the estates of 2 deceased patients, the AI tool they deployed, called NaviHealth, now defunct, had a known 90% error rate, but the company...
See, like, I've spent some time, like, defending the guy and being like, well, you shouldn't shoot somebody for this, which I still agree with. I don't think you should shoot somebody for this, but I do think you should put them in jail for it. Like, the only reason why I think Luigi did something wrong is that he robbed the public of getting the getting the vindication of putting this guy in jail. Like, that's it. Like, somebody who does this and they know that it's 90% error rate, I mean, at a certain point, there needs to be a level of personal accountability for this. But legal, yeah, you have to do it legally. Of course you have to do it legally. But, like, there has to be accountability. Never would have happened. Well, I mean, fuck. I think the reason why it would have never happened is because enough people don't understand it. People don't understand this problem well enough to really fully grasp what the issues are. And I think it's because a lot of the effects of this are like second and third order effects. So it's hard for people to like really see how things connect together.
Refused to fix the problem, leading to a series of protests and more litigation from across the country, way before Luigi entered the picture.
Complicating the crime, Thompson was under investigation for insider trading. The city of Hollywood...
I mean, the guy's a piece of shit. He got arrested for DUI. I mean, what are we talking about?
Its firefighters pension fund is part of a class action lawsuit against Thompson and United Healthcare.
These parasites had it coming, Luigi allegedly writes, framing Brian Thompson as a predatory businessman and himself as an arbiter of karmic retribution. Thompson leaves behind a soon-to-be ex-wife and 2 teenage sons, which is sad. People dying sucks. However, 41% of young voters polled by Emerson College in Boston say the assassination was quote-unquote acceptable. And the past few weeks on social media have seen a rabid frenzy of cult-like Luigi worship, exalting him as a righteous reaper who took matters into his own hands.
Absolutely.
Something of a communist Kyle Rittenhouse, fulfilling a deep, almost primal void that so many have had for an Italian-American anti-hero since Tony Soprano left us in 2007.
His comments...
Oh my God. I do think that a lot of the reason why people like him is because he's photogenic and attractive. I feel like if he wasn't and he looked like a weird, like ugly dude, it probably wouldn't even be nearly as much attention. And so, like, I don't think that it's really as ideological as people would believe. But sure. And I think also there's another big component of this is that memeing. Like, doing the Luigi memes is funny. there's a lot of people like I think a lot of them are really funny. I don't agree with them, but I think they're funny. It's like 9/11 memes. Like, God, I've a million of those, right? For sure. But that's not the same thing.
Every good, he got bitches visiting him, all that.
Despite having pled not guilty, market data suggests that Luigi hats are flying off the shelves at record rates. And with no progressive policy change in the cards for the next 4 years, scores of young progressives have been given hope.
This is a person that he saw was the head of a company that was guiding a company that implemented an AI system to deny claims to vulnerable people, elderly people, that had a denial rate of over almost 90%, that was continuing, to just profit off of widespread suffering.
If you were to ask how many people who are insured get denied their healthcare claims, there's no math on that because they will never release those numbers. They don't have to, and it would incriminate them. If you were to ask how many were uninsured and die every year, it's approximately 48,000, which is 4,000 people a month, 130 a day, 5 an hour, and one person every minute and a half is dying in this country because they're being held hostage by the health insurers.
I'm not sure how you arrive at that number. It's very hard to say. But, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people that need health care and they can't get it. Yeah, for sure.
Every person that dies does not just die. They are killed by the health insurance system. They are assassinated. They are executed by the capitalist
just
system.
Averaging it? Well, what I'm saying is, like, how do you get the 48,000 number, right? Like, how do you define, like, a person dying, and, like, how could you look at the difference between, like, because if you can't A/B test whether a certain surgery would save a person, like, I don't know if you can really be certain about that. That's my point.
For profit.
Wow. But I'm sure there's a lot of people.
Pretend that one man in charge of that system being executed is somehow more important than every single person every minute and a half who is being executed it's abominable.
Imagine carefully planning the execution of someone you don't even know, haven't met, someone who hasn't done a thing to you, and now he's a hero to some on the left.
The media pretends that because you shoot somebody, it's somehow more unacceptable than to sign a paper denying somebody coverage and signing their death warrant. But it's murder just the same.
I agree. I think that people like him should be held accountable. And I think that's really what the issue is that a lot of people have, is that there's not really a form of corporate accountability that average people think is sufficient enough. Because, like, you have people that basically do what United Healthcare did, or they do something that's very accountable for what? Well, like, they're held accountable for, let's say, denying a lot of claims, or for trying to reach certain profit margins and denying things based off of a reason that's not in the best interest of the customer. I think it's actually very easy to look at, like, what the incentives are and see whether those incentives are good or bad. And so, yeah, misuse of funds, exactly. Yeah, definitely damaging malpractice. Yeah, exactly. And so this is really what the issue is. And, like, you know, in other places in the world, occasionally they'll, like, execute some, company owner or some billionaire. And usually everybody's pretty happy about that when it happens. I think that maybe not execution, right? It's hard to say. But I think with a lot of these people, the main issue is that there's never any form of personal accountability that comes with making bad decisions that actually kill people. So a lot of companies will end up taking risks that put people's lives in danger because they know that they'll never actually be held accountable for it.
Death is, I mean,
yeah.
This country has been built on blood and death. And,
the president and the vice president are posing and smiling with a known murderer, Daniel Penny, who is, we know, murdered a man.
Totally support this guy, by the way. Completely in the right. Huge W. Totally support him.
Whether the legality lets him go to prison or go free
based.
Is a completely different thing.
Yeah. Yes.
So I would say to the president, if he would stop eating McDonald's and get out of the golf resort, he could maybe ask the billionaire who's dog walking him if he could start working for healthcare for the people that elected him.
Because
the thing is that he's right. The Luigi cosplayer is completely right. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like the Elon Musk and dog walking Trump, like that's just, I don't give a fuck about that. But like, yeah, 100% he's right. He's not in office. Yeah, well, when he was, nothing really happened, right? Kind of elaborate what the difference between him and Luigi is. Yeah, basically, so the guy that Daniel Penny killed was like running after somebody with a knife, and he had 41 arrests prior. And so this is like a crazy, violent person who could murder somebody at that very moment. And so it's like a life or death, immediate self-defense situation. Whereas when you look at Luigi, you're thinking about somebody who's just killing someone proactively. Like, this is a very different dynamic. Yeah, had to do something? Yeah, exactly. It was self-defense. Yeah, basically.
Health is one of the most important things to being human. It's one of the things that continue to make us humane, that allow us to do all of the things that society continues to build on, all the things that make you happy, activities, whatsoever. If you are not in good health, then that basically closes the door to every other thing that you would like to do in life. And every other major first world nation, and all of the others, have universal health care.
I came down here because personally I'm going through the whole healthcare thing. I got the same back surgery as Luigi, probably, what was it, December 24th.
Can you explain exactly what that surgery is?
It is a surgery on your lumbar. It would be, I believe that would be the L4 and 5 that I got the surgery on.
Lumbar is like the lower part of your back?
Yeah, the lumbar down at the bottom here. And also I got one in my neck.
According to Reddit posts made by Luigi, he underwent a pretty difficult spinal surgery last year for chronic back pain, specifically in the lower lumbar region, where he had a misalignment that caused him extreme pain, unable to look up, arch his back, surf, rock climb, or be intimate. The surgery, called a discectomy, typically costs between $15,000 and $50,000 without insurance. And even those who can afford it often find themselves waiting months and even years for care.
So when I got my
I don't know if the money for him was a factor. I think that Luigi is the kind of person that probably did it because he just didn't like healthcare. And the back surgery was like maybe the cherry on top, but it wasn't the real reason. I mean, this guy came from an extremely wealthy family. They could have paid it no problem. Yeah, his family was rich, right? So I don't think that like the price of it was like a deciding factor in him doing that. It doesn't make sense to me. He didn't even have United. Yeah, exactly. And so I don't think that's the reason.
Surgery, it was a year and a half of trying to get the ability to get the surgery, and the whole time I had nerve damage. Now I have permanent nerve damage, and they're saying that a lot of it was because I had to sit around for so long. So what they gave...
Of course, right? And that's the problem, is that a lot of these types of injuries and things like this, what they end up doing is that they cause you to have other compounding issues. It's kind of like how obesity means that you can't move around as much, and not being able to move around as much means that you can't do something else. So it's like a cascade of problems that is like one creates and precipitates the other and the other and the other. Like, for example, like my dad had pneumonia like last year, and he got pneumonia 2 days after he got hernia surgery. So like it was harder for him to like get rid of all the like the infected tissue with like the pneumonia, because he couldn't cough and he couldn't spit anything out because he had just received a hernia operation. So it's like usually when it's kind of like COVID, right? Where like a lot of people that got like killed by COVID, they didn't get killed by COVID. They got killed by COVID being the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think that that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize about like health issues, is that health issues end up cascading into more health issues, right? Comorbidities. Yes, that's the word. And somebody else said in chat that like a lot of people that are younger support it. I don't think that younger people supporting it is an indication of people having any sort of like real viewpoint, because I think that if you went back and you had a person like this do this in the 60s, you'd probably have the same level of support from young people. And then those young people now are old and they don't support it. I think that it's something that's primarily because of the demographic and not necessarily because of any sort of like actual sign of change. Yeah, that's young people just... Well, I mean, I think young people are like much more prone to be like to be extremely aggressive with like making changes like that. Yeah, they're edgy. Yeah, and I think also like when you're young, you don't have as much respect for a system because you feel like that system probably doesn't work in your best interest in a lot of cases, and in some cases they're probably right. But for older people, obviously, you know, they have a different perspective. Yeah, your brain doesn't develop till 27. Yeah, that's also another factor, right? True.
Me was like medication. I was on pain like opiates.
Yeah.
Now the insurance companies are saying that it's not a long-term thing. I can't sleep. I can't do anything without like medication.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I can't even afford to keep going with insurance. I haven't worked for 2 years since this incident, and like I guess the reason why I'm down here is because I keep hearing, you know, about everybody suffering from the healthcare system, and like myself, I'm about to be homeless. Like I lost everything. I was making about 114K a year, and
Jesus, and that, wow.
Now I'm down to nothing. When I went to the disability office and everything, I did that over a year and a half ago, and I'm still pending in the courts. I haven't had a first court date. So the whole system is designed to just take you out. Like, in the next 2-3 months, I'm going to have to find
it's crazy how much money and how much that stacks up and how fast it is. It's nuts. Yeah, also, I mean, like, the Gucci glasses, like, okay, so, like, that's true in a way, but, I mean, let's be real. If he had a job, he's making over 100 grand a year, he's making 6 figures, he can afford Gucci glasses. He probably bought those 3 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. And, like, this is when things were good, and then things got bad, and so he still has the glasses. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's stupid with money, right? I don't know. It's not enough points on the graph to make a line, right?
A way to move. I don't have any family, so I'm gonna go hang out with some friends and try to do that while I'm suing a company for what happened. But in the meanwhile, there's no help or health care, and now I'm looking down that I won't have any medication, which means I can't go on walks, I can't sleep, I can't sit, I can't do anything comfortably, I can't even cook. So I just wanted to let you know what's going on with me.
What's the medication you're taking?
Oxycodone. 10 by 325. I used to be on 5 a day, so 50 milligrams.
Recognizing that his opiate tolerance was getting far too high, Nicholas asked his doctor to be prescribed pregabalin, an epilepsy medication that also helps with nerve pain.
But the problem with...
Yeah, it's fucking brutal, man. It really is. Yeah, it's no way to live. I mean, it's better than not, right? I mean, it's better to have it than not.
That is, once you start taking it for like a month or two, once you stop taking it, the rate for like seizures as a side effect is really high, I'm being told. Jesus. So no doctors even want to give that to me because I live by myself. You know, I live in Midtown, and I am about to have no help whatsoever. I'm down to my last 6 days of medication, so...
Yeah, my dad went through this exact same thing. It was fucking brutal. Yep. Again, a tolerance? Yeah, it's really, really bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to take my email down, we can try to help you. I don't know if you need help moving or, you know, we have extra money and shit if you need help.
Super expensive,
I mean, it sounds like I got you, man. Yeah, well, I want to help you, man. It sounds horrible.
Big surprise. Hey, you're on speaker.
You know, for my neck, because they fused those two levels, and then they fused a third level, and then the vertebra on the bottom collapsed. It just broke apart in my neck. So they had to go in there and, you know, put in a replacement there.
Yeah.
And I was just to the neurosurgeon here about a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago.
Yeah.
And he says I got 2 more on my back, but I'm so damn old that, you know, they don't want to fuck around with it. And but all the way since I was 17, they started giving me. There wasn't even any hydrocodone or anything like that around. All there was codeine, and so I'd take, you know, several of those a day, and then over Nam or the Darvon and the codeine, and then after that I was on hydrocodone about 5 a day, and then when I went to that pain doc, he kept stepping it up.
Yeah.
I told him what I needed was, when it got bad, you know, to use it temporarily, but he had me on a steady diet.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it wasn't doctors or anything cut me off. It was the fucking Texas board, which doesn't even have all doctors on it. And they just decided, well, we're just going to cut off, because a lot of people kill themselves with heroin and fentanyl.
Yeah.
So we're going to just cut off this hydrocodone and morphine, and
Mm-hmm.
I also took Lyrica and another painkiller I can't remember now, and so that effectively ended my life. You know how it was before, and you know how it was after I couldn't get any more hydrocodone. I mean, when you're constantly in pain and can't carry any kind, even the lightest pack.
Well, it's not even just that. It's like, because you can't exercise as much either, right? And so it's like you can't exercise as much, and then now you don't have the muscle mass, and now that's creating a bigger problem because that helps keep the bones in your spine, like, in place. Yeah, it's a cascade effect.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
It's been awful, and I got off all those, the morphine and the hydrocodone and the others and all that shit by myself.
Yeah.
Because I hate going to those rehab centers and they do, like, what's that? It's like AA,
Yeah.
And I hate that shit. So I just did it myself at home, and I had a tough 3 or 4 months. But with my meds, just like this guy's got 6 days left. I remember when I had 6 days left, and I was scouring the countryside, and I could manage to pick up a few here and a few there.
Yeah.
People, I told them, man, I don't give a shit whether you can take them. Just get the painkillers, give them to me. And but there's only so many people I can get that from.
Right. Yeah.
So I was shit out of luck, and I still am.
Yep.
I've got a weak one, but I can kind of store it up, and by not taking it, and then use it just when it gets bad, like it has been around Christmas time doing shit.
Yeah.
And so this guy's dead right.
Yep.
They take away with it, and that's because how many people commit suicide or accidentally kill themselves with hydrocodone? 85-90% of the deaths are fentanyl, and then there's the heroin on top of that.
Yeah.
And so by the time you get down to hydrocodone, it's damn near nothing.
Yeah.
And so there's fucks up there of course, this is Texas. And
no, it's a religious bullshit. No, I get it. No, I do. I mean, it's just that, but this is, I was just saying, like, your situation is very similar.
Oh yeah, kicked my ass.
Yeah.
And they kept giving me antidepressants, and I said, these things don't work.
Yeah.
They're fucking me up. And for 10 years they did this.
Yeah.
Finally, some cowboy boot doctor down in a little town called St. Cloud in Florida. Said, do you have any other symptoms? And I said, yeah, I've got this lump on my neck, and when it goes down, I feel like I'm going nuts.
Yeah.
And so he sent me there, and the neurologist blew it off. But he said, well, we better get some x-rays, finally. And then he had dictated notes that are all printed out. And at the bottom, he had a little note he wrote in there, severe deterioration of C3.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember all this, but
the C means cervical.
Yeah.
And that's what, and that's when for years and years I had this problem, and it deteriorated.
Yeah. No,
Doctors they look at me and they say, "Oh, you look fine," and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, this guy got screwed the same way I did, and I also wanted to let you know. I know you're seeing it in chat, but you might want to mention and see what's going on with Carter.
Yeah, I'll look at that. I'll look at it after I finish this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Stop by later, will you?
Yeah. Okay.
Let me know. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yo. Bye.
Yo. Bye-bye.
Okay. So yeah. No, my dad had to deal with this whole situation. Like, that's how, like, I know about this, is that that was like, that was his story. And, like, there's obviously, like, more to it, but, like, that's the abridged version.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
After this interview, I decided to launch a GoFundMe to help Zan move, pay rent, and afford medication, which I kicked off with a $1,000 donation. I hope that collectively we can all pitch in a few bucks and help him to at least get some relief in this objectively horrible situation.
That sucks.
He struck me as a great guy, and I'm very blessed to have the platform to help people who need it. I've put the link in the pinned comment in the description of this video. All right, let's go back to the controversial manifesto that was leaked.
Also in his backpack, according to police, a 3-page handwritten manifesto confessing to the murder of United Healthcare's CEO Brian Thompson and ranting about other health insurance bosses.
Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming.
And so whenever you read that manifesto and you noticed that parallel, did you resonate with the frustration that Luigi felt?
Of course. I'll be honest, of
course.
I don't know if the manifesto is real or not. Like he said, you can't trust anything the NYPD says.
Yeah.
But in regards to what it said, like not being able to sleep, rolling.
I think that a lot of people resonate with Luigi's situation. I think that like being able to like relate to and like understand the way that he feels doesn't necessarily mean that you're like rationalizing behavior. But like if you look at kind of like where a person's coming from and it's like how did they get here, it makes a lot of sense.
Over like
There were days... I think somebody in chat said it. Everyone agrees with Luigi minus the murder. Yeah, the murder thing is the contentious part. What he was saying, I think pretty much everybody fucking agrees with.
I had someone who used to come and help me at where if I didn't have medication, like if it was on back order before my surgery, I would be throwing up from the pain. I couldn't crawling to the bathroom. It was fucking terrible. And sorry. And also if
not the news, you can curse all you want.
As illustrated by this conversation, there's been many disputes regarding the authenticity of the alleged Luigi manifesto.
Who knows?
However, the journalist who leaked it is quite reputable, so I believe it to be real. And I had many questions for him. Here's what Ken had to say.
I'm Ken Klippenstein. I'm an investigative reporter.
You made the choice to leak Mangione's manifesto to the public. I want to know why you made that choice.
Well, I just thought it was media paternalism at its worst to withhold this on, I think, the dubious grounds that releasing this out of the public is going to be like some kind of code word, like in the Manchurian Candidate, where it's just going to activate something in everyone's brain and cause...
Fuck that. Fuck that. I don't want to hear that from the media after they parade this guy around and they're constantly showing photos of him and farming every single interaction when he's in public, but somehow we can't show the manifesto? Get the fuck out of here. Like, they're the ones that are building this up by filming him constantly everywhere.
To take out acts of violence against other CEOs. I mean, all this sounds very familiar to me.
Yeah, treat him like the fucking Joker, yeah.
Argument that violent video games is causing shootings. I think it's just scapegoating something else because people don't want to deal with the underlying issue of why would the health insurance industry produce grievances of the sort that would cause people to find memes about this person dying funny. That's the question that people should be looking at. And to me, that is the kind of active ingredient in all of this that's driving the response that some people find distasteful. But instead of looking at that, they're just kind of wagging their finger and saying, oh, if we just take it down from everywhere. I mean, I had, internal chats from the New York Times staff leaked to me showing that they were instructed from on high above, like senior management, telling him, we need to, quote, dial down the use of Mangione's photo, his headshot in pictures. The idea being we don't want to, play into the glorification of him. And the idea...
I actually agree with that. I think that we have a huge problem of glorification of violence and glorification of criminals. But the issue is that I think that with the New York Times and with a lot of these cases, it seems like it's always very self-serving. So like they don't really care about like this happening. They care about somebody thinking, well, you know what else I don't like? I don't like the New York Times either. And they go and shoot everybody in the building. That's what they're worried about. They're not worried about negatively affecting American culture. They're not worried about like what this implies for like the public at large. They're worried about somebody seeing Mangione doing this and then thinking, maybe I should do the same thing to the New York Times. That's what they're afraid of. It's self-serving.
A picture of somebody is going to intrinsically just, again, cause everyone like, it shows you how much contempt they have, the public. They think people are zombies that are just going to see something and just act it out. And there's no critical thought.
Well, I think that's true, actually. I think Ken's wrong. I think people are that stupid. Yeah, I do. I really actually, I think it is that simple.
That happens.
Is that their version of populism, killing CEOs?
And look, to the extent that they're justifying this, what they're doing even worse is they're tacitly encouraging copycats.
So you're saying that the CEOs and the government are scared of like a V for Vendetta final scene in Joker contagious wave of assassinations happening?
In fact, they use that word contagion. If you look at what the head of NYPD intelligence, which is a very big office, NYPD is, on the footing of a
Which,
national...
by the way, everybody should be terrified of that happening. Because if a lot of people start going around and killing high-profile people, what's going to happen is they're just going to come out with a new Patriot Act where you lose even more of your rights and you have even less autonomy over your own life. Like, it's not like they're just going to say, oh, wait a minute, I guess we're going to lose. Oh, just a minute, wait a second, I'm all right, I guess we're going to do what you want. Yeah, they're not going to do that. It's just going to be worse for everybody. They'll kill even more people. Yeah, exactly. Revolution is inevitable. I think it is not. It is not inevitable. It is impossible. There's not going to be a revolution. Sorry, I just don't think so.
Agency, multi-billion-dollar budget, and she gave a public speech to the Atlantic Council, a think tank, in which she described this explicitly in counter-terror terms, including the speech being expressed in support of Mangione.
Well, so, I think that obviously Luigi's a terrorist, right? I mean, if you look at the definition of terrorism, I think that he would fit that definition for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it worked. It did. It worked in a lot of ways. He's not? Oh, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I don't think so. So is every school shooter? So that's not true. So the difference is that terrorism generally is done to advance a political goal. What Luigi did was done with the purpose of advancing a political goal. That's very different than a person going crazy and shooting everybody. And again, like, how so? Well, because of the intent behind it. So the intent behind a crazy person going crazy is that they're crazy. The intent behind a person who's doing something for a reason is that reason. There's a huge difference between those two things. How could you think that there's not? Now, maybe not in effect, but in approach, in terms of like how to reduce this from happening, etc., they're very different. By definition, a school shooter would be a terrorist? Not necessarily, no. No, that's not true. There are a lot of school shooters that do it because they're just crazy. They're just fucked up in the head. Like Adam Lanza, for example, that did Sandy Hook. Just fucked up in the head. There's no ideology behind this. He's just a fucking freak. So that's it. I mean, like, and again, like, this isn't like this. I feel like some people might be getting upset about this. This is just you just look at the facts, right? I mean, that's all. Disagree? I mean, you can disagree, but like, I'm just saying that based off of the definition of terrorism, he is in fact a terrorist. Like, I don't think this is really a debate, right? I mean, unless you want to say the definition's wrong.
So it's not just about him as an individual. They are treating this, like you said, and using the word contagion. There's this whole, law enforcement theory that it is almost like the Cold War or Vietnam, the idea that it's going to jump from communism will jump from one country to another, and then it'll spread to another.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any evidence for that. To date, there's no example of somebody shooting someone else in response to this. There is an example of a lot of people posting mean.
I think that it might happen, and there's a good chance that it will happen. Because there's like over 300 million people in the country. What's the chance that one of those people pop off? It's pretty high, I would say. Yeah, I think it's a very high probability of that happening. Copycats have always existed? Yeah, exactly.
Tweets and things, but to say that that is comparable to murdering somebody, there's just no comparison, and so there's no evidence for it. I mean, I guess what they would say is, well, wait and see. But what it says to me is that there's a lot of people in the intelligence community that don't know how to read the internet and don't understand irony and don't understand sarcasm and don't understand shit posting, and so they take it at face value and say, wow, there's this army of V for Vendetta masks that are just.
I do think that it is emboldening for anybody who would be willing to commit a terrorist act to see that the act is viewed as being a moral good. I think that many terrorists, like a lot of the people that blow themselves up and, September 11th, these people are going to heaven in their mind, right? They're the heroes of the story. Like when they blow up a building full of a bunch of innocent people and they kill everybody, they're doing it because they're in the right. So I think that like saying that there's no moral mandate and like there's no moral appeal to this is like, I think it's naive. It's the greater good. Yeah, exactly. Not always. Well, nothing's always. But I'm saying that, like, if you think about it based off of probabilities, I think it's very reasonable to assume that to be the case.
It's going to, you know, come out in force with pitchforks and come after us. And that really seems to be what they're, the manner in which they're responding. It's a sort of moral panic I think we're seeing right now. And my hope is that people will look at more and more of the evidence come out, not just in the form of the manifesto, but the trial that's going to happen, and say, hey, there's much more to this story than that some guy snapped and just went crazy or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's
I don't really know if there's that much more to it. I feel like as soon as people can get past like this individual guy and like talk about actual healthcare, the better. Because I think that the amount of conversation that's surrounding Luigi is extremely toxic. And I don't think that, again, there are a lot of young people that support Luigi, but if you look at the general demographics, and even young people, it is a minority. 40% is a minority. But that doesn't mean that there aren't 60 people that think it's bad. And if you look at the overall population, this is a very fringe opinion, right? It's like an 18, 17% people think it's good. And I feel like a lot of them might just be saying that, right? It's hard to say. So I don't think that the focus around him is positive.
Big conversation to be had too around the idea of violence. You know, I think that, of course, we know shooting someone in the head or in the body, wherever he was shot, that's violence. That's, you know, you're shooting someone. People think of fist fighting and those kind of actions, assassinations, that's violence. But they don't use that term when they think about policies that lead to people dying and healthcare and medicine prices that result in people dying, or people claiming that effectively is a form of violence. You might not be.
It is. He's right. He's totally right. Because it's not. It's indirect violence. And so, like, it's kind of like if you sell a person a gun and then you know the person is going to use the gun to kill somebody, did you kill that person? Indirectly, yes. Directly, no. Did you kill someone? The answer is no, you didn't. But you enabled it to happen. And I think the problem is that a lot of these policies have happened over the years, and I don't think that the public feels like they are vindicated and taken care of. And so when they see somebody who, it's basically like if the world is unfair and people perceive unfairness, they're going to do things that are bad. And I think that's why Luigi happened. It's because people perceive unfairness and they say, this is bullshit and I have to do something about it. Does that apply, in your opinion, to manufacturers? Wouldn't that logic be a slippery slope? I think that any of that logic is a slippery slope, but I think that at some point you have to legally define it somewhere. And I think in some cases where decisions are made to make more profit at the expense of other people's lives, there needs to be, and this is a problem with, like, in general, like corporate companies, the corporate veil, basically, which is like it protects an individual from accountability from the actions of a corporation. I think that this actually enables a lot of bad behavior. And I think that we should get rid of a lot of that. And basically, if you do a bad thing and a corporation acts in a bad way that's harmful and hurts people and causes people to die, I think that individual people need to be held accountable for that. And there needs to be an investigation into why it happened, and somebody needs to get in trouble. Yeah, like that's it, right? I mean, you can't have something bad like this happen and then somebody just, and also sometimes mistakes happen, right? And so I'm not saying every single time, but I think that in a lot of cases, they're not mistakes. And so that already exists. Well, it's clearly not enough.
Being strangled to death, but you would have otherwise lived if it wasn't for their policies.
Yeah. And when you look at the urgency of the discussion around this, let's be frank, one person who died, again, there has been no other attempt to kill anybody anywhere else, no evidence of a copycat attack. It's hard to look at that and say there's
I don't
any
think that this argument is very good, because just saying that it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it won't happen. I think that people become inspired by the Unabomber. Like, I think actually Luigi himself is a good example of that. Luigi was a fan of the Unabomber, and he read the Unabomber's book, Ted Kaczynski. So just because it hasn't happened in like this immediate period of time doesn't mean that it won't inspire people in the future.
Reason for that than that he was a really rich, powerful person And he's still benefiting from that status even in death, while literally tens of thousands of people die from having to ration insulin, for just one example, something that costs pennies on the dollar to manufacture. It's a disgrace. What do you even say to that? And the fact that the people in sort of the corporate media can't understand why somebody would be driven to rage over that, whether or not you support what he did, not understand that mindset.
Yeah, people are furious about that. Absolutely. Yeah, of course. And I'd like to know how you see Luigi as terrorists and not these companies. Well, because the companies don't have a political goal. It's the same reason why a bank robber isn't a terrorist. So, like, being a murderer and being a terrorist, it's not like being a terrorist is really that much worse, right? It's just a different distinction for another word. Like, the words, like, I think that there's, like, always an emotional weight behind words. And I think that that emotional weight carries, like, a tier list behind it. And that's why people are getting caught up with the word. If somebody's a murderer or if somebody's a terrorist and they're terrorizing people by murdering them, I feel like this is basically the same. Like, I don't think it's really a big difference in terms of, like, the moral evil behind it, right? But I'm just saying, like, just based off of the definition, it's really not that complicated. You're defining your own words here? No, I'm actually not. You can look it up in the dictionary and see for yourself. It's about the intent. Yeah, that's all. It's just about the intent behind it. So why make the distinction? Well, because each word, in order to understand why a person does something, you have to use words that most accurately describe the reason why they did it. It's very simple. Yeah, it's a useless word in my opinion. Terrorism is a useless word. Man, I've really thought that this topic has really brought out some of the most retarded people. And I think that the reason why is that you have a convergence of a number of different things. I think that, like, one big point of it is that people that think like this generally don't understand any form of second order effects. And so, like, people view this as just happening in, like, its own independent world, and it will never, like, be paralleled anywhere. And I think that it really attracts a lot of, especially young people that are, like, naive, super idealistic, and they don't really have, like, a very good grasp on, like, any sort of effect beyond what they're immediately doing. And so that's why I think that, like, because I've talked about this a number of times, and it's always been a lot of really, really stupid people that disagree and, like, argue. Yeah, it's been probably I would say this issue has probably been one of the biggest retard issues that I've had to deal with. Yeah, at least recently.
Like, wow, they're really out of touch. They don't get it.
Yeah, they never will get it, but it's okay.
Yeah. If you'd like to see our full, uncut interview with Ken, where we break down the manifesto sentence by sentence and discuss everything under the sun, go to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/channel5. As many of you know, we are totally independent and mostly crowdfunded. So if you'd like to support us and see some uncensored, exclusive content, head on over. I'll put the link also in the description and bio. Thanks.
Channel 5 live worldwide, Hollywood and Vine.
Fuck the authority, Channel 5 News.
Channel 55. We don't fuck with custers. And 5 is the best number.
I could charge you $200, for this video alone. I said a lot of things.
I can charge you $200 too.
You can't. You know why? You know you can't?
Why?
I'm a part of Lyrical Lemonade, which is a contract company. I said 4 things that are copyrighted. I'm under them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know Cole?
Cole?
Yeah.
Cole Bennett?
Yeah.
He actually has 3 videos of mine on YouTube.
Damn, so you got a lot of shit going on.
This is a reminder that we also have a lot of shit going on. And one particular new project that we're very excited about. It's called Canal 5 con Andres Callaghan. Some of you may have seen our coverage of gentrification in Mexico City, or sex tourism in Tijuana, and got the inkling that Channel 5 was expanding its operations to the Spanish-speaking world.
Yeah.
Well, Dios mío, you're goddamn
That's
right.
good.
And we've taken things a step further and hired an actual team of voice actors to overdub all the classic Channel 5 videos. So you can watch classics like Connecticut Kia Boys,
cualquier destornillador, cualquier cable USB y consigue el auto que quieras.
That was a good video.
Coster,
That was a
ese
Great
así en la
video.
55.
The Hoff twins.
Oye, este también es mi barrio, puedo hacer esto, esta es mi casa. Sigue grabando, negro.
And even more recent videos, like West Virginia Snake Church.
Sí, su nombre es
The
Jesús.
Snake Church.
All in Spanish. But we need some help getting our new channel off the ground. So if you guys don't mind, head
Canal
over,
Cinco?
give us a sub, a comment, or a
Oh,
like. Thanks so
'cause
much. I'll
that's
leave a link in the
5.
pinned comment in the
I
description
know
along
that.
with the others.
That's a
Have a
good
great
one.
Christmas.
Canal 5 en vivo en todo el mundo, Hollywood y Viña.
Que se joda la autoridad. Noticias del
Yeah.
Canal 5.
Canal 55. No jodemos con
El
casters.
Snake-o?
Y 5 es el
Ajá.
mejor número.
Good one. Yeah. Well, I love Channel 5. I totally support them. You know, make sure to give them a sub, a like, etc. I totally support this. I think this is a really, really good video. And I think also, like, the component about, like, what that one guy said is that I think everybody agrees with Luigi besides the murderer. Yeah, like, that's the contentious part. But it's really not even the point. I feel like, yeah, for a lot of people, everybody sees this and they're like, yeah, this is bad. It's terrible. And Channel 5, as always, W Channel 5, yeah, it's great. And at least you don't have factions like Luigi sympathizers. I mean, there's going to always be people that are like that, but it's not really worth taking seriously or getting upset about that, etc. And great content. Yeah, I think it is great content. And I think also talking to these individual people, especially like this guy, not him, like this guy here.
Surgery is?
I think that like his story is like really, really, it's endearing for a lot of people. And I think also it's not endearing, it's relatable. And I think that's the reason why people like these videos. It's because you take a person like this and you humanize them and you listen to what they're saying. And in a lot of cases, it does make sense. I'll be right back. Sorry.